Democrat of the day. We head over to the east side of the metro. Pat Driscoll is kind enough to join us. 41A is the district. She's kind enough to take some time today to talk about her campaign. Hi, Pat. How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I could be better. The Twins are a little hard. Are you a big Twins fan, or what's your favorite sport?
Well, I like the Vikings, but I also like hockey. I like UMD hockey, though.
Oh, the Bulldogs. Oh, they got a great program up there. They have built a great program. I like UMD. And my daughter is thinking of heading up to UMD for her college. And so I could be rooting for both the Gophers and the Bulldogs. And I'm all for that. I think that program they built, that hockey program up there, is top notch.
I especially like it when they beat the Gophers.
Oh, now we're getting personal. Now, Pat, let's first of all talk about a little bit who you are. Who exactly is Pat Driscoll?
Well, I'm a wife to another Pat Driscoll. My husband's name is Patrick, so it can be confusing. And I have 3 daughters and 3 granddaughters and a grandson. So I'm a wife, a mom, and a grandmom.
And
I'm also
go ahead, please.
Okay. I'm also a former school teacher and a former principal and a current school board member.
Good for you. Now, and that's I think that, first of all, a fantastic trajectory. What did you teach, if I could ask?
I taught students who had learning disabilities. I taught them how to read, and it was mostly junior high students and very few girls. I mostly had boys. And
then of course you get into the administration, and then of course you get on the school board. And by the way, I was just talking with another Democrat of the day the other day about this. It really is, and that is exactly a great way to get involved in your local community, because being on the school board, being on your city council, these are not only will it give you a little taste of what politics is like, but the reality is most of us in our day-to-day life are far more affected by your local school board, your local city councils. Those are great places to begin because you really can make a difference within your community.
You're right, but I think I can make a bigger difference as a legislator, because now I've experienced what they need.
Yeah. And you've had that front row seat for a while and seeing it from all the different perspectives. The 41A, how much did this district change in the redistricting?
Oh, it's a totally different district.
Wow.
There's 2 precincts of Cottage Grove, and when I was in the other district, it was all of Cottage Grove and some parts of other places. And then the district that I have now, most of that was a different district. It was Shelley Christensen was the representative. And when the new districting happened, she didn't live in the district.
Wow.
So she lives in Stillwater, and that's not part of the district.
It's what, Lake Elmo, Cottage Grove, some of those like Lakeland and stuff, which are right on the border there, especially at 94. And it's a fairly long north to south district. Right.
The district north to south is 60 miles if you're the senator, but for me, it's only 40 miles.
Only. and $3.70 gas. That's a little bit pricey. It is a pretty district. I spent a lot of time over there, soccer, baseball, going over and playing tournaments. I love the parks that are over there as well, especially the ones on the river. They're fantastic. It is a really pretty district, and it's just a gem. And I think that's one of the reasons why that whole side of the metro is really starting to grow and grow fast.
Yes, especially in Cottage Grove. Yes,
yeah.
We're growing so fast that we're running out of space in the schools.
Wow.
So it's been interesting. Yeah.
So was it education was the main reason why you said, you know what, I'm going to make a run for 41A?
Well, it's not just education. I'm concerned about health care and women's right to choose, and I'm also concerned about the environment and especially the climate. The climate crisis.
Let's start with, because obviously you've been doing a lot of door knocking. I imagine you've been around the district quite a bit. What has been your firsthand experience in regards to voters and the repealing of Roe v. Wade?
I don't get that a lot at the doors. The number one thing that I get is education. That's the one thing they're mostly concerned about. I think a lot of Lake Elmo, that's growing as well. And all these young families have children, and they're very concerned about education. And the same is true of the people I knocked in Aston and Lakeland and Cottage Grove. So I think education was the one I heard the most. And secondly, I think I would have to say the environment, because they are all very environmentally conscious. You know, they have a lot of parks and they have some water issues. So they're concerned about the environment.
I would say one of the things that's interesting about anyone that lives on a river, especially these longer rivers, and you got the St. Croix there, the further down you go on these rivers, that's where you see the real effects of climate change and environmental disaster and man-made pollution on these rivers. You just get the further down. The further up you go, the more aware they are that they don't want that creeping further and further north. And I think that that's a really... one of the things I know about the people that live on the riverfront over there, it's very important to make sure they're dealing with climate change, they're dealing with pollution, they're making sure they're keeping this in check, because they have one of the true natural beauties in the state on that river. You do not want that all of a sudden losing that and losing not only the quality of life, but the revenue from tourism and people coming on there that comes with it because of pollution and climate change.
Yes, and they've done a very good job of keeping that river clean. Did you know that it's the cleanest river in the world?
I'm going to give everyone a little hint here. Every year I put out a poster or a calendar and I do images. I'm looking at Taylor's Falls, and I took some pictures of the river up there. It is just spectacular. It is a river that it reminds me of rivers up in the very northern parts of the state, where you can see it is just pure clear. It is gorgeous.
Mm-hmm. Yes, it is beautiful. I've lived on the North Shore, and I know that Lake Superior, you can see your feet in that water when you're out there, and it's just crystal clear up there. So it's a beautiful place, and people like the environment. That's how I learned to love the environment so much, was being on the North Shore. That's where I was a principal.
Pat Driscoll joining us, 41A as Democrat of the Day. So let's get back to when you were talking about education. Is this, when you're talking about these growing communities, you brought up Afton, you brought up Lake Elmo, two of the fastest growing communities. As a matter of fact, I was in Lake Elmo about 8 years ago for a baseball tournament, and it was bizarre. As you got right off of 694 at that point, and all of a sudden it was like you're in cornfields, and there wasn't a lot of development there. That has changed dramatically. And as you said, that comes with growth, that comes with people, expansion there. So when you're talking to these families about the schools, is it just the capacity issue? Is it making sure that it's that they have enough facilities in place to deal with the kids that they have?
Well, I think it's different in each area. I don't. Lake Elmo is the place where it's growing, and I think that they're eventually going to have to build. I don't know that district real well, but it sure looks like they're going to be in the same situation as Cottage Grove and Woodbury, which is part of the school district, but it's not part of my district, my legislative district. Mm-hmm. So, we have a lot of kids coming, and our schools are crowded. Mm. And the same is true in Stillwater School District.
You as well, you mentioned healthcare early on here. Talk a little bit more about what you want to champion for healthcare.
Well, we need healthcare providers, and we need to pay them well. And they're unhappy, mostly about the working conditions, not so much the money. The nurses are, they were on strike, but it was more about the working conditions. It's not safe. They have too many patients to take care of, and they can't do a good job and they know they're not doing a good job when they have that many, and they feel bad about that. And what can they do? They just it needs to be solved. It's an issue that the hospitals need to deal with.
Well, and as a state issue goes, Minnesota has always been one of the bellwethers for medicine in the country. You can't have it, and I have seen this. I've got family members that live in other states where it's, the resources are stretched thin. You might see a nurse every 7 to 8 hours, and that's it. It's you can't have that and have quality health care. And a lot of these these medical providers that are up here, they love the reputation they get up here. It's just that if you're going to maintain that reputation, you got to have the staffing issues and the resources available for the nurses and the staff that they need so that they can continue our trend as the best place in the entire planet for healthcare.
Absolutely. The same is true with schools. We need support. We need mental health care providers. Even if they gave the money, they wouldn't have enough providers because kids aren't going into that field because of the college loans are so expensive and things like that. So And I know my daughter is a therapist, and she tells me that she's overworked and they can't get more. It's hard to find anybody going to that field.
Mm-hmm. Pat Driscoll joining us once again, 41A, veterans issues. I'm a veteran, U.S. Army, and I served in Gulf War. And it's one of those things where, and I've said this numerous times, I don't care who the president is, people just don't do enough for the veterans. And we try. We like to put signs and stuff up there, but they need the basic stuff. They need the health care. They need the support services. They need job training. They need the education. And they need to get rid of the red tape to make sure they can take advantages of the services and the benefits that they have earned. Talk a little bit more about how you want to help out the veterans there.
Oh, well, I knew a young man who came back from the Gulf War, and he had a tooth knocked out from shrapnel. You know how long it took him to get his tooth replaced with the vets?
How long?
A year.
Oof.
A year.
Ugh.
And a young man going around with a tooth missing wasn't very pleasant for him. So I just think that's appalling. And then we have 50% of our vets. We had a lot of homeless vets. Now we alleviated 50% of them with a program that they did that was excellent and should be a model for the rest of the homeless people. I think we can do more for vets. We absolutely can do more. We promise them, lifelong health care. They might be getting the health care, but they're not getting it in a timely manner. They need it now when they need it.
This is me saying this, Pat, and I have no problem saying this is my thing. I've always said, I personally feel that any veteran, to get a license to be a medical facility in the United States, you have to agree to see every veteran that walks in the door. And that just should be the deal, that you don't have to run to a special hospital. You don't have to wait in a line, that you can just go to any medical facility and get treated as a veteran. I do not know why we don't do that, because that would be the most common sense way to do it and reimburse these facilities for taking care of the veterans. But it would also alleviate what you just pointed out, that timeline there. I'm not saying you can't fix the VA. It just is you need to have a much more modern mindset to it. And it's not just one big building, every 300 miles. You've got to have a better access to medicine for these veterans to make sure that they don't have to wait as long as they have.
Yeah, that makes sense. It makes a lot of common sense. Sometimes we don't do things that way, and we need more people in the legislature who have common sense.
And I'm glad you are running out there. I mean, it's a part of the state in the metro area, and it's funny. I was talking to someone about Edina. I said, I remember when I first started doing this radio show back in 2010, Edina was hotly contested between the Republicans and the Democrats. I don't even think they're running a Democrat in half of Edina, or they're not even running a Republican against the Democrat in half of Edina. They're just not, because the Democrats have taken over a lot of these areas. That's an area that used to be a strong Republican district. I'm not saying the Republicans aren't fighting hard to try to hold that, but the reality is the Republican and their platform does not speak to a lot of people in that district. And this is one of the reasons why, especially with environmental issues, and you're talking about educational issues, healthcare issues, these are the reasons why the DFL is making gains out there. So I'm hoping things go well for you at 41A.
Well, thank you. I hope so, too.
If people would like to volunteer or donate for your campaign, Pat, how would they do that?
Well, they can go to Twitter or Facebook or my website. My Twitter and Facebook are Pat Driscoll MN, and my website is patdrisc.net. D-R-I-S-C. PATDRISC.net, right? Correct, yes. Mm-hmm. They can also donate. That would help me too.
Donations, volunteers. I would say this with your district here, especially in the metro area, and here's where I make, Pat, here's where I make the usual plea. Help your local DFLer. By all means, help them out. But if you're in a relatively safe district, get out to 41A. It's a long district. She needs help out there, especially considering the amount of distance there. If you can door knock, if you can volunteer, or you can donate because it's a lot of gas, please do either of those, because that's really what Pat needs to win in 41A. And if you knock on all the doors in your district, you're going to win that district, correct?
Correct. They like me.
Well, I like you too, Pat Driscoll, 41A, Democrat of the day. Thank you very much. I appreciate the time, and all my best to your Bulldogs up there. I think they should have a pretty good year this year.
Yeah, I hope so.
I won't tell you who I'll be voting or rooting for when they play the Gophers. I won't say that, but I do like the Bulldogs, and I love the fact that they've been getting into the NC Frozen Four. That has been fantastic. So I'll keep rooting for them. That's for sure.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Pat Driscoll, 41A. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.